National cricket. Now, in the interval today, I was joined by one of the great cricketers from Pakistan, a cricketer, of course, turned politician these days, Imran Khan, the great all-rounder, who is fancied very much today, possibly, to become Pakistan's next Prime Minister. Well, when I joined him, I suggested in jocular fashion who'd be the most surprised that I'd be trying to make sense talking cricket, or that he would be standing for Parliament.
If someone asked me 20 years back, would you be in politics? The last thing on my mind would have been to be a politician.
Really? I'm surprised by that, because you've been a leader.
No, but politics as a career, to sort of the idea of sitting in Parliament and to ask for votes. I mean, the idea of asking people for votes. So being a pretty self-contained person, someone who hated sort of asking anyone for favors. The whole idea was something that was the least attractive option for me. I mean, but in Pakistan, people like me came to the conclusion that unless people like us who did not need politics, unless we went into politics, we will be governed by criminals.
Right.
And the reason why, Jonathan, the third world is third world is not because of lack of resources, not because of lack of human talent. It's because we have one word, corruption. We have people who come into politics to plunder the country. The best business is politics. They come into politics and they basically use the state resources. They make money off contracts. There's no conflict of interest law, so they can come in and borrow from nationalized banks and have the loans waived off, basically looting the banks. So I realized that since I had never ever thought of living anywhere but in Pakistan, I came to the conclusion that if someone like me, who had everything and who had so much love and respect in my country and who didn't need anything, if someone like me didn't go into politics, we were condemned to be governed by criminals.
Yeah. You said you'd be very brave, though, Imran, aren't you, going on the whiter than white wagon, if you like. I mean, it's a corner from a fall, isn't it? I mean, your whole regime, if you get into power, your government would have to be absolutely whiter than white.
But Jonathan, it's been done before. I mean, in front of us, I remember growing up in Singapore, this little island. Whoever thought that Singapore could one day be anything compared to Pakistan? I mean, people from Singapore would come and study in Pakistan. Malaysia, I studied in Aitchison College, and Malaysian princes would come and study with us. Yeah. From Middle East, everyone came to our universities. Pakistan in the 60s was the fastest developing country in the third world. The country, once the Swedish Nobel Prize winner in the mid-60s wrote a book called The Asian Miracle, in which he says that the country that is going to become the future California of Asia is Pakistan. So, in Singapore, we saw an honest, competent prime minister come in, and Singapore's per capita income went from $550 to $30,000. Malaysia, we saw Mahathir, a visionary, an honest man, prime minister, take over. Per capita went from $500 to $9,000. We've just seen in Turkey, in 10 years, this one Erdogan, the prime minister, has changed. Turkey is now the second fastest growing economy. It is per capita again doubled from 5,000 to 10,000. In Brazil, in 10 years, we've seen completely under Lula, the leadership of him, he's changed Brazil.
And this is your blueprint.
What I'm saying
your
is
honesty.
That it can be. Look, the biggest problem is corruption. Look at Nigeria; it's sitting on oil. It's literally sitting on these huge oil reserves, and yet look at the poverty there. So basically, corruption is the main, and corruption destroys governance. It destroys all your systems. It destroys your institutions. Above all, it destroys meritocracy. So in order to be corrupt, you need to have corrupt bureaucrats. So the honesty is penalized. And so the whole potential of a country goes down the drain.
Is that part of the problem with the cricket as well? That corruption, is it part of Pakistan culture, this corruption, do you think?
Well, put it this way. We have Asif Zardari, our president. And by the way, I have to say that my party is the only party protested. We went out and protested when he was going to be the president, saying that we're not part of this crime, that it should be noted to our future generations that we were not part of this crime, because the guy has been convicted in Switzerland for money laundering. Three governments have blamed him for siphoning off over $1.5 billion. Now remember, the country's budget at that time was $12 billion. So it's siphoning off $1.5 billion. So if he is the patron of the cricket board, now I still blame the players. I still think that it's no excuse. But, when crime pays in a society, when a man can become the president, all his cronies, absconders from justice can become government ministers. Do you blame 19-year-old? And my heart particularly has always gone out to Amir, because he was one of the best young talents I've seen. And then at least he pleaded guilty straight away, said, I made a mistake, So, but in this culture, really, as they say in the Chinese proverb, fish rots from the top. When you have these people ruling the country and giving the signal that crime pays, then I guess it permeates all sections, strata of the society.
Yeah. Would you have Amir back? I mean, if you had a say once he served his time, would you think it's a future for him?
Yes, I would have him back, because he didn't lie. He was straightforward. He went and said, look, I did this. It was a mistake, and I asked for forgiveness. And for a 19-year-old, I would forgive him.
Yeah. I'm getting signs you've got to go in a minute, because you're such an important man these days, Imran. But I've got to ask you, look, if you're going to be Prime Minister of Pakistan, and my taxi driver said he's voting for you yesterday, by the way, so there's one vote in the bag, right?
And remember that. It's the taxi drivers that count.
Correct.
It's that strata of society which goes out to vote.
Well, you're in with my man from Peshawar last night, okay? But this is big politics in Pakistan, Amy, isn't it? I mean, you're talking America, you're talking Britain, India. These are massive subjects that you are going to have to be dealing with.
But Jonathan, put it this way. No one has been through the mill, in other words, been through the process as I have. For 15 years, I set up this party, and mine was the only party that twice was offered to be part of the government, and we refused. So we sat out for 15 years, and waiting until the people of Pakistan thought that, they believed in us. And whatever I was saying, we've called the movement for justice. In other words, the biggest problem is justice, governance system, and which brings in investment, and that's prosperity. So I kept saying that corruption was the number one issue, and related to corruption is tax evasion. And we would never have enough money to spend on our human beings, because these two, from corruption and tax evasion, we would always fall short of having enough funds for human development. And we ended up borrowing money, and we are now, just for your information, almost 60% of the budget goes to service debts. So we are borrowing money to pay debts. So the country is bankrupt. So this is all these things I said 15 years ago, and just about a year ago it clicked in Pakistan, and suddenly there is this movement now, which in my opinion is a movement which once comes in the history of a nation. So it's a mass movement now, which we are heading, and I have no doubt that we are going to succeed.
Do you know, I can be able to put in my second autobiography that I was once bounced out by a Prime Minister. Okay? And I wasn't hooking either.
Okay.
Imran, it's great to see you.
Jonathan, good seeing you.
And good luck.
Thank you.
We shall follow everything, obviously, with great interest. Imran Khan, great to see him here. He's a busy man. He's got hordes outside waiting to see him. He still looks fitter than he deserves to, but there you go. He's a terrific man, and it's lovely to see him. And he was a wonderful cricketer, and it's great to see him here. Now, let's move